Good morning, everybody. This is Man Coverage with Knoxville Nate JB Bonneville. It is college football week 11. It seems like we wait for college football to start. It seems like the offseason takes a millennium, and then boom, the season begins, and it's like over before it even started. Crazy how fast the season goes, but it's been a phenomenal season so far. Lots of ups and downs, crazy games. We still have a couple of unbeaten teams. We're going to break it all down to you today. We've got a special guest that's going to join us, and a little bit of former Tennessee Volunteer to give us his thoughts on the Volunteers and their bounce-back game yesterday versus Missouri. James, how are you doing today, buddy? Week 11, what's up?
Any better be a crime. Plus, we start hate week, so let's begin. We got to free the pig from Iowa.
Yeah, that's a big game. The good news for you is Iowa doesn't play offense, so if you can score any points, you should be good. We're about a week away from my big game, as the Buckeyes are going to be taking on the team up north, which shall remain nameless. Honestly, I'm very surprised that they remain unbeaten. I'm pretty shocked about it. I didn't think. They lost a lot of guys off last year's team. I mean, we did too, but we always do, and we reload. And Ohio State's expected to be undefeated every single year, or people freak out. But I really didn't expect Michigan to be undefeated going into the game, and it looks like they will be. And before we get started on our breakdown here, I just want to get your thoughts. Where do you see? Let's say that they both take care of business next week. Ohio State beats Maryland. Michigan wins. I forget who they play. Where does the game rank in the history of it, in your opinion?
That's a tough one. I mean, there's been so many epic games. I mean, you go back to the year that they were 1-2.
2006. I was there in the first row.
I mean, that one is going to be hard pressed for that one not to be, because there was so much hype built on that game. I don't think it's going to be bigger than that. But it's such a, I mean, you go back to the 10-year war between Bo and Woody. I mean, yeah. I think those people who aren't old enough to understand it should go back to what it was. And really, more importantly, the role Miami of Ohio plays in both programs. I mean, both programs really fostered both Woody and Bo to this day. And how it created that war to what we see it today is probably one of the best, if not the best, rivalries in all of football.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. Should be a good one. And like I said, I'm a little bit shocked that, that they're both going to be undefeated going into that game. And, this happens a lot where these two teams are undefeated and they go into this game and then one of them gets knocked out because it's the last game of the year. And this is why I don't understand why these two teams are in the same division. It makes no sense. I get it that they want these two teams to play every year, but the way that the college landscape works now, they pretty much wipe one of them out of the playoff, right when the game starts. So
I don't know about that this year. I think there's a chance that if that's a close game, both could get in.
I don't think so. There's no way, dude. You obviously don't understand I live down here in the SEC land, and the SEC bias is real. There's going to be two SEC teams that get in no matter what. So I just don't. I hope you're right, but I don't see it happening. No one really thinks down here that either of those teams are very good, and I don't see them. I don't see them both getting in. But I hope you're right. I hope that happens, because I think they're both good enough to be. I think they're both top 4 teams, to be honest with you, at this point.
I mean, the one thing that surprised me the most about Michigan, or SCUM, South Central University of Michigan, is that their defense. I mean, you look at how much they lost last year with Hutchinson, Ojabo, Daxton Hill, and the defense is playing extremely well. I mean, I honestly think this is probably Harbaugh's best coaching job. And if Blake Corum has a big game in the game, he's got to be in the talk for the Heisman Trophy. I mean, he is having quietly an incredible year. That, I mean, he is outpacing Derrick Henry and Mark Ingram when they won the Heisman. yet
Yeah.
nobody's talking about it. Like, this is like one of the best kept secrets. And honestly, right now, he's got to be sitting in the front row on that day in New York. I mean, do I think right now he'll win it? Probably not, because it's so quarterback heavy. And if I had to bet, I would say Bryce Young deserves it. But Blake Corum deserves to be there.
Yeah, I'm not so sure Bryce Young deserves it. He's a great player, and he's carried that offense. But yesterday, in the second half, it was more the run, I think, that helped them out because Ole Miss couldn't stop it. But we'll get into that game. I want to talk first about the Horned Frogs, because you didn't pick the Horned Frogs to be undefeated this year. Nathan Schmidt did not pick the Horned Dogs to be undefeated this year. In fact, neither one of us had the Horned Frogs anywhere near the top 5, much less the top 10 going into the season.
I had a middle to lower part of the Big 12. I mean, I knew they're gonna put up points. I just thought they weren't gonna be able to stop a cold. And I mean, yesterday was great. I mean, you would have thought going in this game, the winner was gonna have to score 40 points, right?
That's what I thought.
And honestly, that was like a textbook defensive game. I mean, both teams really dialed it up, and the blitz. I mean, even like special teams, like the special teams work. Like, Texas had a game plan going in on getting after that punter, especially from the left side, and they came damn close multiple times to blocking punts.
Yeah, the only problem was the one time they did hit him, and knocked him down. That was a big play.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the defense. I mean, you look at Texas's offensive line, which we said all along was going to be, going to be a negative, because it's just not been good lately. And TCU looked like Gary Patterson was still there on the sidelines. I mean, they were in the backfield constantly. I mean, Quinn Ewers had one completion in the first quarter, and it was at the end of the first quarter. I mean, Grant, I've questioned this kid's release point from day one. He's a good quarterback, but man, he did nothing to help.
Is he though? Because I watched that whole game yesterday, and I'm not so sure that he is a good quarterback, because his decision-making is questionable at best. I don't know if you saw the play where they were going down, driving, had a chance to punch it in the end zone. They were inside the 20 in the red zone. It was a third down play. Robinson sneaks out of the backfield on the left. He's staring right at him. The defender falls down. He could have kicked it to him.
Yeah.
And Robinson would have caught it and walked in the end zone. Instead, he throws it into double coverage to the tight end, who doesn't even catch it, and it's fourth down. They have to kick a field goal. And there was 3 times yesterday where perfect snap. It was a big moment, second or third down, where they're driving and have got some momentum, and he drops the snap and kills all the momentum they have. And I don't know, like you said, it was several quarters into the game before he throws his first completion, and he finishes 17 of 39 for 171 yards and an interception, no touchdowns. I mean, if he throws one touchdown pass, this game is tied.
Yeah.
And it looks way closer than it was because of the
defensive touchdown.
Yeah, Max Dugan dropping. He did the same. I think he watched Ewers so much that he caught a little bit of his itis, and he dropped a snap, and the defensive back for Texas picked it up and ran it back for a touchdown. It was funny because the Texas fans had left the stadium, and they heard the roar of the crowd from the fans that were still in there, and they started coming back in. So that was pretty hilarious. But I mean, it was just the ineptitude of Ewers, and the offense on Texas was bad all day long. And I think a lot of credit should go to TCU and their defense. The scheme was good. The play was good up front. They're solid. I only had 2 sacks, but they were in the backfield a lot. And
the pressures were insane. It felt like that left guard or right guard felt like that he's a true freshman and he's going to be good for Texas. But he got blown up time after time after time. And I'm shocked Sark didn't do more. I mean, he did a little bit because they were doing these bubble screens to Whittingham, who honestly I'm shocked he didn't add more to the offense. And the tight end slash slot guy, that Sanders kid, really impressed me a lot yesterday. I thought Xavier Worthy was there, but really not. I mean, I think he's got to get bigger next year if he's going to take that next step, because I'm a high on him. I don't understand what the hell is going on how that game was just, I mean, offensively was a joke.
Yeah, it was abysmal. And, even TCU in the first half struggled mightily to get points and yards. I mean, this game was 3-0 at halftime.
Yeah.
And in the second half, the offensive line for TCU started to wear out Texas defensively. And Kendre Miller went for 21 carries, 138 yards. And also, I like that DeMercado kid.
Yeah.
He had some big runs in that second half on third down, when they needed to pick up a first to keep the clock rolling. DeMercado was out there a lot of the time and was the guy doing it. But I felt like Texas and Sark did their team a disservice by not running Bijan more. I mean, I know that they didn't have tons of success in the first half, but if you look at it, he only got 12 carries.
Yeah.
And, like you said, throw a screen to him, throw a swing pass to him. I just felt like he's their best player, in my opinion. And they didn't get him the ball enough. And also Worthy was open several times, and they
especially
didn't get
deep.
The ball. Yeah.
I mean, how many deep balls were there? And he was getting outthrown by 10 yards. Like, it wasn't even close.
And that's what goes me back to my, thing about Ewers. Maybe he'll be good, but he's not good right now.
Well, I mean, remember, ideally, he'd still be a true freshman right now. That's why, I mean, I know a lot of people like to get to college early and reclassify, but, it's more than just a physical game. It's a mental game. And it's a big jump from playing from high school to college, just as it's just a bigger jump going from college to the pros, because you're going from playing a game to it's a job.
Yeah. No, it's true. I'm just not, he was one of the top recruits ever, James.
Yeah.
He was one of the highest rated recruits ever to come out of high school. And, it doesn't look like that to me, is my only point.
No.
He doesn't look like, the guy. He doesn't look like CJ Stroud when he stepped in as a redshirt freshman, not this year, but last year. I'd take, this is why I like Ryan Day. Ryan Day looked at this kid and looked at CJ Stroud and was like, yeah, go ahead, go back to Texas. We got things covered here, bud. But another team who's been surging over the last few weeks is obviously Oregon. We've talked about him on this show. Bo Nix has exceeded all of our expectations down the stretch. But yesterday, let's just be honest, he got outplayed by Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah.
And Washington, who's been kind of up and down a little bit, played a good game yesterday. I mean, they got hot late. They had a couple balls bounce their way. What did you think when you saw Washington finish this game out and beat Oregon 37-34?
Well, first and foremost, this is once again a showing of how Kalen DeBoer is really a good coach. I thought this was going to be a close game to begin with, because Oregon's real deficiency is on their defensive backfield. And Michael Penix, I mean, unless you've been living under a rock for the last 5 years, this guy likes to go vertical. And they really exposed the Oregon D-backs. And that's why this game is what it was. I mean, Michael Penix, 26 for 35, 408 yards, 2 TD passes. I mean, the guy was amazing.
Yeah, he was a good player. They also had a really good day from Jalen McMillan, their wide receiver, 8 catches, 122 yards. They just outpaced them. And boy from Minnesota, Bucky Irvin, had another amazing day. And they also had Noah Whittington, another running back for Oregon. They had 2 guys go for 100 yards. They ran for 312 yards as a team. And when's the last time you saw a team run for 312 yards and lose, James?
Exactly.
I don't recall that. I can't remember another time where a team ran for 312 and 2 touchdowns and lost the game. I just, like you said, it was all about Oregon's secondary not being able to get the job done. And this may, this is going to put a huge damper on Oregon winning the Pac-12, don't you think?
I would have to say so. I still think they can win the Pac-12. I just think this knocked them out of the playoffs for sure. They're done. Like this knocked them out completely. I mean, nearly 600 yards of offense. I mean, this is the funny part is last year under Jimmy Lake, Washington had an incredible defense and an offense that was Iowa. Let's be honest. It was Iowa. And this year, their defense, not nearly as good, but offensively, man, they're putting up yards like it's a slot machine. I mean, what has Kalen DeBoer done there in 1 year is just amazing. And I'm impressed to see what this guy's going to do next year because everywhere this guy's gone, he has won.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it's been a big turnaround, honestly, I think, in the state of the program in one season.
Yeah.
And you talk about TCU, you talk about Washington. I think those 2 teams, which were historically good programs, both those teams were not good last year. So I'm excited to see both of them heading in the right direction.
And culture. You look at it plain and simple, it was culture because there's not that many guys except Michael Penix that's different on Washington or at TCU. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, heck, they lost guys to the transfer portal. Yet both top 25 teams, one is sitting there waiting for the college football playoff at this rate.
Yes, I concur. Let's jump over to the SEC real quick and go back to Alabama. Alabama did not look good in the first half. In fact, they looked horrible. And I was like, man, they are not going to win this game. After watching the first half, they fell down 10-0. It was just not looking good at all. But they came back and they looked like a different team in the second half. Bryce Young, I think in the first 6 drives, I think there was like 5 punts. And in the first 4 drives of the second half, there was 3 touchdown passes. Jackson Dart, to me, fell apart in the second half. I know that rhymes, but he just looked bad to me in the second half. Couldn't throw the ball. Wasn't really, he couldn't handle the pressure. He had guys coming in on his face. The offensive line was not doing a good job, but he needs to understand that and get the ball out of his hands quick. And I saw several times there was guys wide open and he just held onto the ball and got sacked or tried to run and couldn't get away. What did you think about Bama holding out the victory 30-24 in Oxford yesterday?
Well, one thing I've said, and we've talked about this before, is Bama on the road is just, this is not your typical Bama team. Quite frankly, if you look over outside of Nick Saban's first year at Alabama, this is probably their second worst team they've had. They're not nearly as good. They're not, they're definitely inexperienced on the receiving core. Their offensive line definitely is allowing more pressure. There's very little depth behind Jahmyr Gibbs, and defensively, they just haven't been able to lock people down to the point where they have in the past. And at home, they could pull it away. And quite frankly, that Alabama emblem still gives them an edge going into places. And I think when push came to shove, Ole Miss's sphincter really tightened up quite a bit, and that cost them yesterday. Because you look down the line, Ole Miss had almost 100 yards more total offense. They 2-1 rushing, 2-1, and yet they still lose the game 30-24. Really, Alabama Bryce Young controlled the game the last 20 minutes of the game, 25 minutes of the game.
Yeah, and Jahmyr Gibbs, I'm glad you brought that up because I think he's been one of their best players all year. And I'm trying to figure out why he didn't play at all in the second half. He didn't get 1 carry. He had 6 carries for 3 yards in the first half and was somewhat ineffective, but it's Jahmyr Gibbs. You hand it to him once and he could bust it, 80 yards for a touchdown, but he didn't play at all in the second half. They rode Jace McClellan and Roydell Williams. But Jahmyr Gibbs didn't play. Did you ever hear why? I have not.
I have not.
He was not hurt. I can tell you that. he had his helmet on and he was standing there ready to go in the game. So that was kind of weird. But kudos to Quinshawn Judkins, who ran 25 times for 135 yards and 2 touchdowns. I believe he broke the freshman touchdown record in the SEC, that's pretty impressive.
I mean, honest to God, it still blows me away on star ratings how a kid like this, and you look at his offer list, it was impressive, and ends up at Ole Miss, beating out Zach Evans, who was all world coming out of high school. And I mean, his numbers have been fantastic for Ole Miss. I mean, last couple years, Ole Miss has been a vertical team. Now they look like a quasi Big Ten team where they're running the ball.
Yeah, it's true. And I think a lot of that has to do with the quarterback, honestly.
Yeah.
He just can't make all the throws. And, he looked better at USC because they were playing in the Pac-12 and he had wide receivers that were better than everybody and they were wide open running down the field.
Heck, it's SC.
Yeah,
let's be honest.
That's not the case.
When your third stringers would probably be starters on most Pac-12 teams, it's a lot easier to throw to good talent rather than trying to slip one in there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a whole different story when you've got 4 guys running down the middle of the field all wide open than when you're playing against Alabama and you've got to find the guy who's, maybe open or throw him open. It becomes a lot more difficult, and he could not do that down the stretch. I mean, all they needed was 1 score down the stretch. They got the ball back twice where they could have won the game. And their defense played pretty well, holding Bama to 2 field goals in the fourth quarter. I was pretty impressed with that. Your offense has to come up with something and win the game, and they were unable to. So I feel bad for old Lane Train. Maybe he chose the wrong guy and should have rolled with that freshman. I'm not sure, but I can tell you that there's going to be another competition next year before the season begins.
Yeah.
Let's go down to down the road a little bit as LSU played Arkansas yesterday. LSU trying to stay alive for the West title. Arkansas coming off a loss to Liberty. Didn't expect Arkansas to put up much of a fight, to be honest with you, but yet they did. And this game was 6-3 at halftime. We had the TCU game 3-0 at halftime. We had this game 6-3 at halftime. If you like defense like me, you are happy, but if you don't, maybe not. What did you think about this game? LSU did pull it out, winning 13-10, but this was anything but easy versus Arkansas.
Well, as a Midwest guy, I'm not going to lie, I thought this was embarrassing because instead of having Gatorade on the sidelines or water on the sidelines for LSU, they had hot chicken broth because, that's right, it was 45 out. Wow. Guess what, guys? When you play in the NFL, try playing in Buffalo, Green Bay, Chicago, pretty much majority of the North where a majority of the teams play at. It's going to be colder than 45. And it was just awful. It was just, you got to learn how to play in crappy conditions. And it wasn't that bad, quite frankly, which makes me want to have a series, an SEC Big Ten Challenge, where you play these games in November, half down south, half up north. And let's see how some of these SEC teams play in conditions that are not ideal. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's been 80 degrees down here nonstop the entire year. And then yesterday, somehow it dropped like 30 degrees. So it was kind of a drastic change from what we've been experiencing here down south. So maybe that's why. I don't know. I'm not making excuses for him. I thought it was pretty weak sauce, to be honest, for me. But I was more shocked that Arkansas kept this game as close as they did. It was 13-3 going into the fourth quarter. Arkansas was able to score a touchdown and, cut it to 13-10. And LSU could do nothing offensively pretty much the whole game and had put up a goose egg in the fourth quarter. What are your thoughts on this running back for LSU, Williams, who was a walk-on at LSU? I'm so impressed with him. 19 carries, 122 yards yesterday. He basically was their whole offense.
Well, I think you got to go back to old school Brian Kelly, back to Notre Dame, his time at Cincy, his time at Central, even at Grand Valley. he builds his teams on the line of scrimmage. And I mean, when was there a time at any of those places where he did not have incredible line play? Like, he opened up holes. I think the one thing to look at a lot, though, in this game yesterday was Arkansas didn't have KJ Jefferson, and they still only lost by 3.
Yeah.
That's not good if you're Brian Kelly right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just not so sure how good LSU really is. I mean, I think back to the Tennessee game where they got absolutely dismantled at home, 40-13. And I just, that was not a good showing. And I know they played well. They played good in the Alabama game and were able to win that game. But I'm just not so sure how great they are. But they've definitely gotten way better throughout the season. And
completely.
Yeah, I watched the first game against FSU, and I've watched their progression through now, and it looks like a different team. So Brian Kelly might be a DICK, but he is definitely a good football coach, and I think he's going to have LSU going in the right direction. I mean, let's be honest, LSU is one of the best programs in the country. They've got tons of talent right there in their own state, and they're going to be a force, I think, in the West going forward. Don't you?
Yeah, I do. I mean, just having that recruiting base in Louisiana, I think Brian Kelly is going to do one hell of a job. It'd be interesting. I mean, the one thing he's always struggled with is quarterback development, but across the line everywhere else, I mean, he has had studs everywhere. And trying to get that, I mean, that's going to be the key for them to take it to the next level. Because, I mean, right now, if you're Vegas, it's especially with the expansion of the SEC, I mean, the over-under on him winning a national championship would probably be a half.
Yeah, probably be pretty good considering the last 3 or 4 coaches at OSU have won national championships.
Yes.
So yeah, I could see him winning one there if he gets the right guy behind center. And let's be honest, you don't even really have to develop a quarterback anymore. If you don't have one that's good, you can't develop one. You just get one to transfer to your school. So that's one way to fix that problem. Let's talk about a team that was still ranked yesterday somehow. I don't think they're going to be ranked anymore. And that was 6-3, number 24, Kentucky. They were playing Vanderbilt Commodores yesterday, who came into the game having lost 26 straight SEC games. And Mark Stoops and Will Levis lose at home to Vandy. How the hell do you lose to Vanderbilt?
Calling this a 3-point game is being kind. I mean, you go down the line, and honestly, Vanderbilt should have won by probably 10-17. I mean, 450 yards total offense. I mean, they controlled the possession. I mean, literally, you watch the game, and outside of Christian Rodriguez, what did Kentucky have? I mean, seriously, what did they have? I mean, Will Levis, I know he's a first-round draft pick.
No, he's not.
Come on. He's one of the best quarterbacks out there. 11 of 23, 109 and an interception. I know if I'm looking for a quarterback right now, I'm looking at Lexington, and I'm definitely going to draft Will Levis. Absolutely. I mean, he ranks up there with such great quarterbacks as Dave Klingler, Andre Ware.
Nice QBR of 15.5 yesterday. I'm not sure I don't know what people are seeing when they're saying that this guy is a bona fide NFL prospect. I see a guy that can't win games in college. I see a guy that can't consistently complete passes in college. How the hell is he going to complete passes at the next level when he can't do it versus Vanderbilt?
What's their best win?
Who, Vandy? Kentucky.
No, Kentucky.
Kentucky's best win this season? I guess Mississippi State, maybe Florida. I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I keep going back to. I'm like, Mississippi State or at Florida. And Florida's not good. Let's just be honest. They're just not good. And Mississippi State, you don't know from week to week what the hell you're going to get.
No, that's kind of Coach Leach's teams. That's kind of the issue with them. They'll come out and play a good game every now and again, but then, other times they fail to show up. And, that's my problem with them. But I just couldn't figure out why Kentucky was still rated in the top 25, because they certainly didn't deserve to be there. Do you think?
I don't know how they're anywhere even close to the top 25. I mean, in all honesty, it's kind of shocking. And you look at down the stretch. I mean, right now they're what, 6-4? Well, they're losing next week at home against Georgia, and then you got Louisville. I mean, if you're having problems with Vanderbilt and in Missouri, you're going to have problems with Louisville.
I agree.
I mean, at Kentucky's. I mean, honest to God, you look down the SEC, it's down. It's severely down. Granted, I think every conference is down. I mean, you go down. I mean, there's just not the depth there once was. I mean, if there was one conference that has more depth, it's the Big 12. But then you mark head to head against some of these guys. I'm like, no. I mean, it's just it's so weird this year.
Yeah, I don't understand it, and I'm kind of. I mean, it's looking like it's going to be Georgia versus LSU in the conference championship game for the SEC, and I got to be honest, I'm picking that to be a blowout. I think Georgia wins by 3 touchdowns. I can't see Jaden Daniels and the boys, manufacturing points against Georgia. I mean, if Tennessee can't score points against Georgia, how is LSU going to score points against them?
Well, the only way I see that actually remotely happening is if they actually throw the ball to Keyshawn Boutte. But, I mean, he hasn't even come close to 100 yards all year in a game.
Yeah, who's going to throw it to him?
I don't understand LSU's offense at all. Like, going into this year, I thought Boutte was instantly going to be a 1,000-yard receiver. They had no choice but to go to him because that's all they had.
Yeah, he's being underutilized. That's for damn sure.
Oh, God, yeah.
And we if you want to see where their offense is at, I mean, look at that game yesterday against Arkansas. Like you said, was playing without their starting quarterback KJ Jefferson, and still, was within 3 points of winning the game. With a drive and late in the fourth quarter to go ahead. So I don't know. That concerns me. And
if there was ever a year we needed the 12-team playoff, it's this year.
I agree.
You could get hot late and make a run.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it would be realistic. Where in the past it was like you hit 4 and you hit a cliff. Heck, you hit 3 and you hit a cliff.
Right. And I think that there's more than 4 teams that could potentially win the title this year.
Oh, completely. Absolutely.
I mean, you got Tennessee, you got Georgia, you got Ohio State, you got Michigan, you got TCU. I mean, maybe you could potentially, I don't think so, but some people think you could throw Clemson in there. There's just more than 4 teams, in my opinion, that deserve to at least get a shot. USC, some people think they're good enough to compete. I don't agree with that, but it's potentially
offensively,
feasible.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Offensively, I would agree with it. Defensively, I just don't think they're anywhere near ready. But, I mean, you look at what the tools they have on offense. I mean, Caleb Williams is privately having a phenomenal year and could win the Heisman. I mean, he's another one of those guys. I mean, his passer rating is off the charts.
He's legit. I mean, look what's happened to Oklahoma since Caleb Williams left. I mean, that's a big drop off, and that's what one guy can do for a program when he's under center. They've lost a big hole, and I'm not trying to rip on Dylan Gabriel here, but you give me Caleb Williams or Dylan Gabriel, I'm taking Caleb Williams every single time. And Lincoln Riley, I think, has a good chance of winning the Pac-12 easily. Next year and competing for a national championship. If they get a couple more guys on defense and they get a couple more guys, down front in the offensive and defensive lines, I could see this team competing for a national championship, definitely next season. And as I said, maybe this year if they had a chance. I just don't think a 4-team playoff is going to cut it this year. Do you?
No. I mean, honestly, here's a stat that besides the Texas A&M laughter that they're not going to go to a bowl game this year, which, let's be honest, if you were paying any attention to last month, you could see that happening. Oklahoma's 5-5, and they play home in Bedlam next week, which you and I both know Oklahoma State wants to run up the score on them next week. And then at Texas Tech, there's a realistic chance Oklahoma may not even go to a bowl game.
Yeah.
Which is unreal. Like, honestly, that's when you're going to see all the money people like, did we make a mistake on Venables?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've got a feeling that, there's people within the administration, there's a lot of their fan base that are already saying that. I mean, look at their offensive coordinator, Levy, last year. I mean, Ole Miss's offense was rolling. And I think that's a big reason why Ole Miss's offense is taking a step back, because they're missing that guy.
Yeah.
But he can't do anything with the system that they're running in Oklahoma and the talent that they have or don't have, I guess. So, I think that, it's not really fair to judge Venables, in my opinion, on this year when Lincoln Riley, left town and left the cupboard bare. There wasn't a piece of cheese in there when he arrived. So I really don't think it's fair to judge him on this one season. Do you?
I don't disagree with you, but as we all know, boosters are freaking crazy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's the part that I feel bad for Venables, because honestly, he has deserved a head coaching job for years. And I think he's been very choosy on where he wanted to go, and a great opportunity. The problem is if you fall flat, you could be gone quick too as well.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And speaking of opportunities, I wanted to get your take on some of the opportunities, some of the rumors that were flowing around this week. Zach Smith came out and said that he had heard rumors that the Nebraska position had been offered to Dion, and that Dion was attempting to potentially get a staff going. Do you think there's any way that Dion goes to Nebraska?
It's possible, but it's very untraditional for Nebraska. They like their coaches to be very soft-spoken. It would be – I could see it, though, because they're that – they want to get back to the Tom Osborne ways of winning. And Dion, you look back at that 60 Minutes story they did on him. I understand why kids go play for him. I mean, he knows how to build culture. And look at all those – I mean, you've got so many coaches on his staff that are radically underpaid. I mean, Timmy Brewster is a phenomenal recruiter. Timmy Brewster's on his staff. This is a guy that's been on Mac Brown's staff. He's been on pro staffs. He's been a former head coach. This guy can recruit. He is one of the best. He's at Jackson State right now. You've got guys like Zimmer, the old Vikings coach, as an analyst. I mean, there is some talent sitting there in Jackson, Mississippi, and they gone there because of Deion Sanders. And I could easily see him taking a job at a Power 5 school. And it'd be interesting to see, how he builds at a Power 5 institution.
Well, that's my point. Well, yeah, that's my point, is that if anybody, bringing this program back is going to be difficult for whoever goes in there. I mean, let's just be honest.
Yeah, they're just not the talent in Nebraska. There just isn't.
There's not, but Deion's the kind of guy that could get kids to come there from all over. I mean, you live in Los Angeles, you're a baller, you want to be look at he got the number one player in the country to come to Jackson State. I mean, if you can get the number one ranked high school player in the country to come to Jackson State, you don't think you can get some of these other kids to come to Nebraska?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a fact. And I think that if he were to take that job, I got to be honest, I feel like he's the one guy I could see potentially succeeding, because he could bring players in from all over the country and rebuild that talent base. And, he could also get coaches to come there, like you said.
I mean, NIL alone has, before, there's a lot of things you could really lean on of playing close to home and yada, yada, yada. Now with NIL, a lot of that goes away, where it comes down to a bidding war. And people don't know this. Nebraska's got a lot of money, like a lot of money. There are no other pro teams there. And there's this little company you may have heard of called Berkshire Hathaway that's made a lot of people millionaires.
Yeah.
And they are very invested in the Cornhusker program.
Yeah, they've made some people billionaires. So
exactly.
They've got some cash, and if Dion comes, they're going to have even more cash because he's going to bring, he brings the prime time persona with him, and I just don't see him sticking around at Jackson State, to be honest. I don't know which job he really takes. I don't know how much truth there is to what Zach said about the Nebraska position. We've seen this before where someone's been offered the job. It's been very close, and then things have fallen apart at the last minute due to contract. So we'll see if this actually happens. But I
think the one thing Dion's got going for him is if it doesn't work, he still's got Jackson. Like, it's not like some coaches who are just desperate for that next big job.
Yeah.
I get the feeling with Dion, and Grant, I don't know him, but it just seems like if he gets it, that's great. If he doesn't, that's great too. I mean, he wants to go to the right situation, and that really comes from a good place, from just a logical perspective, because now you're not feeling like you're forced, like you have to win right away.
Yeah, I feel like he's going to do a lot. I mean, Dion's a smart guy.
Yeah.
He's been smart throughout his entire professional sports career, his post professional sports career, about his image and what he does and what he sticks his name on. So I think he's going to do a lot of due diligence as far as examining the job before he takes something. But I feel like if I had, Auburn or Nebraska to choose from, I'm taking Nebraska. I mean, that's my 2 cents on that. I mean, what do you think? If you had those two places to go to, which one would you choose?
See, that it's 6 here, half dozen another. Honestly, the part I like about Nebraska more is I think they would allow him to do what he needs to do, and the booster base isn't crazy. Where at Auburn, they're freaking nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times can you, like, Gene Chizik wins the national championship, has a down year, gone 2 years later? I mean,
not even 2 years later.
Gus Malzahn. I mean, it felt like he was one step away from freaking getting fired all the time, yet he probably had Nick Saban's number more than anybody. And
that's why they're doing. Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why Auburn is where they are right now. That's why Brian Harsin had so much trouble having success there, was that the last 3-4 years of Gus Bus's term there, no one knew whether he was going to be there the following year.
And how do you recruit?
That's what I'm saying. You can't get kids to come there when they're not 100% sure you're going to be there. Like, come to Auburn. We'll teach you the spread. We're going to, score points. And it's like, oh, well, are you guaranteed going to be there? Well, I got a contract. Well, yeah, but they fire coaches, left and right, whether they're in the first or last year of their contract, which they've done twice now in the last, 6 years. They're paying $50 million right now to coaches that aren't there. That's just not a good look. That's where they had problems here in Knoxville at Tennessee, was the same, doing the same thing, firing coaches left and right, having 2-3 guys on that they're paying buyouts to. That lessens the amount of money you can pay for the new coach when you're paying $50 million to staffs that aren't even there. And I feel like that's what kind of hamstrung Brian Harsin, is that he was still feeling the effects from that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look at a perfect example of this is in your backyard with Coach Fulmer. In the continuity that staff had from the point he came in to really the point he left, there was very little change until the end. But I mean, David Cutcliffe with him for all that time period, where when you go into a house like Peyton Manning's or whoever it may be, that they know who their position coach is going to be there for that 4 years. Because once you have that changeover, especially now that you don't have to sit out a year, it's the wild, wild west. There's nothing keeping you there. Nothing.
No, there's no doubt. And let's just, for a minute here, let's jump over to the Big Ten and talk about some of the games that happened yesterday and where the Big Ten stands now. As we mentioned, and we've talked about it all year, the West is just a mess. And, this is I can't remember exactly how many times this has occurred over the last few years. But you've got Michigan, you got Ohio State. Occasionally, we've had Michigan State, we've had a couple of other teams that are Penn State, all that are good. In the East, and then the West is a mess, and so there's teams that get left out of the conference championship game. And I look at the Michigan game yesterday, and McCarthy completes 8 passes, and they win 34-3. What did you think about that Michigan game, and what do you think about some of the other games that happened yesterday in the Big Ten?
I think Michigan's conserving and trying to show next to nothing before they go into Ohio State. Quite frankly, I think they're trying to be build up Blake Corum's numbers as much as they can, because they know they're on a Heisman campaign for him right now, but show as little as humanly freaking possible, because they don't have to. I mean, what more do they have to do? I mean, they knew they were going to beat Nebraska at home. Nebraska is in complete and utter turmoil right now.
I agree with you on that, but which game can you point to where you saw J.J. McCarthy slinging the ball around this year? I mean, tell me the game where you were like, oh, this guy can go through his progressions. This guy can throw guys open. This guy can hit the deep ball. Point to the game, before they're hiding their offense. Show me the game where this guy came out and showed you he's a big time quarterback.
Agreed. 100% agreed.
I'm just not sure he's that good. What if you can shut down their run, you can beat them.
Yeah, no, I agree. But granted, remember last year in the game, they didn't shut down the run. I mean, that's the part that, Ohio State is way better against the run this year than they were last year. Way better. That's why I think Ohio State really is prepared for this game, where if you're going to beat Ohio State, you got to do what James Franklin did, is pepper them on the edges and then come back to the inside.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether their defense is good enough to stop their run game, because their run game is one of the best in the country. But I can tell you that, this is a top 10, top 5 defense now.
Yeah.
With Jim Knowles, whereas Ohio State's defense was not even close to being a top 10, top 5 defense last year. I mean, he's made all the difference in the world, but also they've got some big time players now. So
yeah.
I just, I'm not saying this because I'm a Buckeye homer. I mean, I am. I don't try and hide that. I'm not going to deny it. But I'm telling you, if you're picking a damn quarterback, are you going to be like, oh, give me J.J. McCarthy because this guy in this game tore it up and was torching it down the field? No, I haven't seen him do anything. So if you shut their run game down, what's he going to do? Complete 8 passes and win? Give me a break. I mean, put 8 guys in the box. Put 9 guys in the box. I mean, the one negative thing about Ohio State's defense has been their secondary.
Yeah.
But that doesn't scare me with this guy. I mean, you can complete 8 passes against Nebraska. I don't care if you're, trying to save something or not. You still should be able to throw more than 8 passes. That's a joke.
No, I don't disagree with you. I mean
what's the difference between him and Cade McNamara?
I've wondered that myself for some time.
Okay.
That's why I thought that's the only thing that was my biggest thought process going this year is if you're going to play JJ McCarthy, play JJ McCarthy. Don't try to we're suddenly it doesn't matter.
It's like you're trying to make JJ McCarthy into Cade McNamara.
Exactly. And
just
prior
play
to that
McNamara
in the Peters. I mean, keep going back. They're trying to make the same quarterback into the previous guy when McCarthy's kind of a gunslinger. I mean, but they're not allowing him to. I mean, heck, you got Ronnie Bell back, yet you've heard no talk of Ronnie Bell this year. And that guy would have probably been, a 3rd rounder last year if he went in the draft?
Yeah, before he got hurt, he was one of the best wide receivers in the country.
Yeah.
And McNamara was hitting him, all year long and completing some passes. I mean, McNamara got all the blame, it seems like, last year, and I'm not sure that he really deserved it. I mean, let's look at this for a second.
Yeah.
J.J. McCarthy's completed 147 passes for 1,700 yards. He's got 14 touchdowns on the entire season, and he's averaging 8.2 a pass. And their leading receiver is Ronnie Bell with 597 yards. That's your leading receiver. He doesn't even have 600 yards. I mean, the season's almost over. You don't have a guy near the 1,000-yard mark. I mean, you don't even have anybody over 600 yards. That would concern me.
Guess what their biggest passing day was in this season for Michigan?
Tell me.
Indiana. The only game they threw for over 300 yards, 28-36. Grant, Indiana's D-backs this year are just not good. I mean, I feel bad for Tom Allen because I think Tom Allen's a hell of a coach. And honestly, if I'm South Florida right now, I would seriously look at Tom Allen. He's got ties to Florida. This guy can coach. It's just coaching at Indiana is tough.
Yeah, no, I think it would be a good move for him to go there because they're not going to give him the resources that he needs at Indiana to be successful. Even after the year he did have that was, successful. They're not giving him that stuff. So I don't know. I don't know what I don't know what he expects to accomplish at Indiana. So if I got another job offer, and I think he should get other job offers. I thought the 2020 season he had when he finally got a guy that could actually throw the football and Michael Penix, they were beating Michigan. They beat Penn State. They were beating everybody. Well, I would have left after that year if I was him.
Who was the offensive coordinator?
In 2020?
Kalen DeBoer.
That's correct. The head coach at Washington now. So,
I mean, trust me, I'm a big fan of Kalen DeBoer. It tells you how much of a geek I am. I remember the days when he was at Sioux Falls when they were at NAIA, and that guy was running up on teams like nobody's business. He knows how to win, and it does not shock me at all.
Yeah, no, I just
who wins the Big Ten West?
I have no idea. I mean,
you'd have to say Purdue, but Purdue's got to win out to play for it because technically there's like a 5-way tie for first right now. Illinois is gonna lose to Michigan next week. That's a guarantee.
Yeah, Purdue. You've got 4 teams right now that are 4-3. You've got the Purdue. You've got Illinois. You've got Iowa. How is Iowa still in the race? I just don't understand. You got Minnesota's 4-3, Iowa's 4-3, Illinois 4-3, and Purdue's 4-3. I can't believe that any of those teams are in the discussion for winning the West. I mean that's just embarrassing to me.
It's not good.
That's not good. I mean, you look at the East, you got Michigan 7-0, Ohio State 7-0, Penn State is 5-2. I got to be honest, I think that Maryland is a better team than any of those teams in the West, and they're the 4th place team in the East. And the only reason that they've lost 4 games in the conference because they have to play all the teams in the East.
Yeah, but they got curb stomped by Wisconsin.
They did.
Yeah, they got curb stomped by Wisconsin. I think honestly, I think the top 3 teams are the 3 teams in the East, honestly. And after that, I mean, Purdue deserves it if they win out, but you and I both know what's going to happen in that freaking game. Ohio State is going to just run it up on Purdue.
Well, think about the last, however many Big Ten championship games there's been. They're pistol whippings. I mean, last year, Michigan versus Iowa, it wasn't even watchable. The year before, Ohio State versus, I believe that was Wisconsin, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. They played Wisconsin one year and won 59-0. They played Northwestern the one year and, just destroyed them. I mean, I really hope that they do some realignment. When USC and UCLA come into the conference, because this is just not good for anybody.
The last time it was actually a good game would have been last year, Michigan 42-3. 2020, Ohio State won 22-10, where Northwestern was actually leading at the half. Prior to that, Ohio State beat Wisconsin 34-21. Which was a game until the second half, and then Ohio State beat Northwestern 45-24, and then 27-21, Ohio State beat Wisconsin in 2017. That was a good game. That was a close game. And then prior to that was Penn State beating Wisconsin, and that's where Penn State was down 21-0, came back, and still nearly lost it.
No. Well,
yeah.
It's not good, and they need to do something to change that up. But let's talk for a minute here about the ACC, because we haven't really discussed it at all.
Yeah.
And we need to talk about what happened over there yesterday. Obviously, kind of the marquee game, in my opinion, was the North Carolina Wake Forest game. North Carolina is 9-1. Okay, no one's talking about them. They've got a quarterback who yesterday, I believe he's a freshman, correct?
Drake May, I think he is.
He is a freshman. Yesterday, our boy from the team up north completed 8 passes. May completed 31 for 448 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, we think about high flying passing offenses when we think about Wake Forest, but maybe not anymore. North Carolina seems to be the team that's doing that now. This game was at Wake, by the way.
Yeah.
They're 9-1 now. They're 6-0 in the ACC. I've got to imagine that North Carolina is going to be in the ACC championship game, right?
Yeah, they're in.
Are they going to win it?
Yeah, they play Clemson. Yeah, I would say they win it. I mean, granted, Clemson's offense is schizophrenic. North Carolina's defense sucks. So whichever one sucks last will probably win the game. If I'm a betting man, I would say Carolina would win. But, I mean, Carolina's defense is just not good. I mean, which is weird because Mac Brown, you look through his time period at North Carolina, at Texas, even early North Carolina, they've had good defenses. And, I mean, go back to the first game where Appalachian State dropped a 60 burger on them.
Yeah, I remember that.
Granted, if I go into the bowl game, I'm not going to lie. I don't care who North Carolina is going to play. I'm taking the other team because the ACC is just not good this year. I mean, you look at their one loss this year was to Notre Dame.
And they gave up 45 to a team that has an inept offense.
Correct. Notre Dame has basically kicked the crap out of the best teams in the ACC.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, honestly, if I'm a betting guy, I look at the matchups, but if I see an ACC team, I'm not going to lie. I may not even need the spread. I may just take moneyline sprinkle and go nuts because even if ACC's predicted a win, I mean, their ACC just does not look good this year. I mean, there's still a realistic chance that, hold on, let me verify it here, that I think I saw that people were still predicting Miami to go to a bowl game. I mean, yeah, they're 5-5 right now, and they're going to play Clemson and Pitt. Miami still could go to a bowl game. I don't care who they play from Conference USA. I'm probably taking the Conference USA team, wouldn't you?
Yeah, they've already lost to 2 of them, so yeah, I would pick them to lose a 3rd game to them. But yeah, I mean this conference. I mean, I understand that Clemson's 7-0. I understand that North Carolina is 6-0. Those are the 2 teams that are going to play in the championship game. But neither one of those teams honestly impresses me at all.
No, you're right.
That's a reason why North Carolina is 9-1 and they're ranked 15th. I mean, I just I'm not trying to take anything away from Mac Brown and what he's done there because I think he's made the program at least respectable. But I'm just looking at their schedule as a whole. Who have they beat?
North Carolina's best win would be, oh God,
who have they beat?
They shockingly, App State would probably be, or Pitt. Pitt or App State would be their best win. Or no, Wake Forest. What am I saying? Wake Forest. Wake Forest would be their best win.
Which they won by 2 points yesterday. So
correct. I mean, Pitt, I would say after that, and then I would say App State. I mean,
that's not good.
I mean, I'm shocked that they only beat Miami by 3. Honestly.
Yeah, well, that's not good. I'm just saying when that's your best win, that's not really a good thing. So
no,
this conference to me, I think is way down. Clemson, I think if they played in any other conference would not be anywhere close to having the record that they've got.
Yeah,
they're
right.
They're 9-1, but I mean, who is Clemson beat?
Yeah, no, that's a legit argument. Who has Clemson beat?
They beat Furman. They beat Louis. This is their out of conference schedule. They played Furman, Louisiana Tech, and then they play South Carolina next, 2 weeks from now. So their out of conference was Furman and La Tech. I mean, what? That's who you went out and put on there to bolster your ACC schedule, and then
they got South Carolina too as well.
Yeah, and South Carolina's not good.
South Carolina's not good. I mean, their best win thus far would be Syracuse,
who's proven to not be good,
or Florida State, because it's sure as hell ain't NC State. I mean,
no, NC State's garbage.
I mean, Wake Forest, but Wake Forest has no defense.
Yeah, we keep saying that everybody's best win is Wake Forest. Well, when everyone beats you, that's really not a great win.
It's not a great win. I mean,
Wake Forest is 2-4 in the ACC. Are you aware of that?
Oh my God,
they're 2-4. Okay, I mean, we keep saying that this team's best win is Wake Forest, but Wake Forest is 2-4 in the ACC, which we just said isn't good. So how is beating them a good win? I don't get that.
Yeah, I look at the ACC and I'm like, this is a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw that NC State lost to Boston College yesterday, right?
Yeah, and they gave that game. They gave that game away. They were just like, we would not like to win this game. Okay, we understand that we're winning. We've been ahead the entire time, but we choose not to win. Here you go.
Honestly, this is going to sound strange, but if Mike Elko does not win ACC Coach of the Year, they should just disband that freaking award, because Duke going 7-3 thus far is freaking insane.
Yeah, he's my ACC Coach of the Year, but they'll probably give it to Mac Brown, just because they're 6-0. But I would certainly give it to Duke's coach, just because of the job that he's done. I mean, nobody predicted Duke to win 7 games all year long, and here it is. They've got several games left, and they're 7-3. I mean, Duke is second in the Coastal, and they're 4-2. They're ahead of Pitt. They're ahead of Miami. They're ahead of Virginia. They're ahead of Virginia Tech. They're ahead of Georgia Tech. I mean, the only team that's ahead of Duke is North Carolina in the Coastal, and nobody told me that was going to happen before the season.
I mean, the games they've lost to this year by 3 to North Carolina, how they lost to Georgia Tech is still beyond me. And then they lost at Kansas. I mean, they could potentially go 9-3, Duke, where honestly, I think their over-under this year was 2.5, maybe 3. Yeah, everybody thought that Duke and Georgia Tech were going to be the dumpster fire of the ACC, and Duke could go 9 wins.
Yeah, easily. That's why I agree with you. He's our Coach of the Year, at least from this show.
Yeah, and that's true, Bradford. The Buffs are a dumpster fire, but we like the Buffs on this show. We're big fans of Coach Hagan, and wow, they did get dismantled by USC, but
it's USC. I mean, honestly, yeah. I'm interested to see what that next hire is going to be. I mean, honestly, I would look at Ryan Walters at Illinois, because he's done a marvelous job with that defense. But what about Willie Fritz at Tulane?
Yeah, I mean, that's who I would go out and get.
Tulane.
Yeah, he's got Tulane playing in a top 25 matchup game.
Yeah.
Yesterday versus Central Florida, and they didn't win, but they were very, very close. You win 8-9 games at Tulane, it's time for you to be hired somewhere else.
I mean, Tommy Bowden was coach there last time they were relevant. I mean, seriously. I mean, this is crazy. But I mean, another name that people should be talking about right now, and I'm shocked we haven't talked about it yet, is Jim Mora Jr. and the job he's doing at UConn.
Damn straight. I mean, think about that victory yesterday. That's a game that we needed to discuss, but hadn't really got to yet. This is a guy, think about UConn the past few years. I mean, it has been the worst program, potentially the worst program in the country. This is a team that has no conference. How they even convinced Jim Mora Jr. to come there, I will never know. I thought, I got to be honest, I thought they would get beat by 25 points yesterday against Liberty.
I did too.
Liberty came in 8-1, correct? They were, just had beat Arkansas last week at Arkansas. They beat BYU 41-14. They took, their only loss was by 1 point to Wake Forest. And yesterday, Jim Mora Jr. and the UConn Huskies take him down 36-33. I mean, if he doesn't win Coach of the Year or at least get mentioned for it, I think it's a travesty.
It's their home field is 45 minutes away from campus. This is a program that they legitimately thought about not only bringing them down to division like FCS, but to cut the program completely. And look what he has done in 1 freaking year. I mean, it is, honestly, you go back to the demarcation point, I'd go back to their win over Fresno State in week 6.
Yeah, that was a huge win.
And ever since then, they've gone 5-1. Their only loss was at Ball State. They've got Army next week. Army just lost to Troy. There is a legit chance that Jim Mora Jr. could take a team that won probably how many, I don't know how many seasons you have to add together to get to 7 wins. And he's going to do it in their first freaking season. Honestly, I think you gotta seriously look at Jim Mora Jr. at some jobs. I hope he stays at UConn because I would love to see a rebirth of that program. But you and I both know someone's going to take a run at him.
James, they were 1-11 last year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 1-11. Do you know who their one victory was against?
I'm guessing UMass.
Yale. They beat Yale last year, 21-15, at home. That was their only victory. They were 1-11. They lost to Middle Tennessee 44-13. It was basically like everybody's pistol whipping game. Vanderbilt beat them. Fresno State, the team they just beat them last year 45-0. I mean, that's the big difference between Jim Mora. Okay, you want to look at the exact same team pretty much last year. Played Fresno State, lost 45-0. This year they played Fresno State and beat them 19-14. That's what he's done at that program, and that's, I don't understand why he's not getting more credit for what he's done.
Yeah, I'm going back to their list. 2021 they won 1 game. 2020 they didn't play at all. 2019 they won 2 games. They've won home against Wagner and at UMass. I'm like, this could be like, we could be going back years before we.
So they've won 3 games in 3 years prior to Jim Mora stepping on campus, who this year is 5-1 at home.
2018 they beat Rhode Island. That's their only win.
So 4 wins in 4 years before he got there.
2017 they went 3-9. They beat Holy Cross at Temple and won at home against Tulsa.
Yeah, I mean,
so you have to get back to 2017 to equal the number of wins that they're going to have this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely unbelievable. You got to give Jim Mora some credit. I mean, a program that had won 4 games in 4 years prior to him arriving, and this year 1. I thought they would be better. I thought he would do a good job. I was very, very impressed with that hire.
Yeah.
But I did not expect him to do all this. And when you think about it, they started the season. Their only victory was week 2 against Central Connecticut. They won 28-3, but they started the season 1-4. And I was like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah.
And then ever since that NC State game, they've looked like a different team.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy how what he's done there. I mean, this is probably one of the best reclamation projects you'll ever find.
Yeah.
I mean, people had a rough taste in their mouth of what he did at UCLA. Granted, UCLA is a tough place to win it. I mean, your stadium is once again 45 minutes away. And look what happened yesterday against Arizona. I mean, when nobody shows up, it's like you're playing for Miami. It's a bunch of seats that are empty. It's hard to play. You have no home field advantage at all.
It's crazy, but the biggest thing I take away from it is, he lost earlier in the season to NC State 41-10. When I was talking about that 1-4 start, he lost to NC State 41-10, and then 2-3 weeks ago they beat Boston College 13-3, who just beat NC State. So that shows to me that's marketed improvement, and that's what I'm talking about with Brian Kelly down in LSU. DeBoard out in Washington, and right here for your UConn Huskies. Quite a bit of a turnaround there, and I think he needs to get more credit than what he's been thrown his way. So we'll see. Next week we have more college football. Week 12 coming up, and there's some games that are looking pretty amazing. The one that I wanted to ask you about is, we were already kind of previewing the game. Illinois goes into Ann Arbor. Do you give them any shot in hell at beating Michigan? Because I don't.
I don't. I mean, especially Chase Brown got rolled up on, and if he's hurt, I don't give Illinois any chance at all. Mm-mm. I mean, Illinois.
They lost last week. I mean, or they lost this week. So I don't really
that
see
would be 3 in a row. I mean, Tommy DeVito's gonna have to play one hell of a game to make that happen. I don't see it. I see Michigan winning that, and we're gonna roll into the last week of the season for the game.
Yeah.
But I mean, you go down the line. I mean, there's two. You got USC, UCLA next week. That should be interesting.
Yeah, and Utah, Oregon. So the Pac-12 is probably, where my eyes will be next week for week 12. I'm going to be looking at that USC, UCLA game, see if UCLA can bounce back after that horrible loss to Arizona. They need this game against USC big time if they want to be in a good bowl and want to end their season strong. And then Utah and Oregon, can Oregon bounce back from that loss versus Washington? I'm very interested to see that game. It's a 10:30 start, so I'm going to be up late next Saturday.
Wow, you're right.
Yeah,
10:30 Eastern. Wow.
Yeah,
that's going to be a late one from Eugene. Wow.
Yeah, you better get some coffee. But we'll see. We're kind of pushing towards the following week where we've got the end of the season. Big time rivalry games that we're all waiting for. But next week we got a couple of games to keep our eyes on. TCU is going to play 6-4 Baylor. I kind of thought Baylor might have a chance until yesterday when I watched Baylor get freaking destroyed by Kansas State 31-3. I'm guessing probably Kansas State is wishing that they had taken out Adrian Martinez the week before, because they finally replaced him with Howard yesterday, and he threw for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. And like I said, led them to a victory 31-3 over Baylor. I thought he looked good.
That's going to be interesting is right now you've got TCU and Kansas State playing at Jerry World for the Big 12 title.
Yeah.
I mean, Grant, we talked in the beginning of the season how K-State had a realistic chance of playing for the Big 12 title, but never in our mind did we ever think that they were going to play against TCU. I mean, did you?
No. I honestly didn't really think I didn't really believe in Martinez, and I thought Kansas State would be good, but I just didn't think they would be in the championship game. I thought Oklahoma State, after the year they had last year, had a shot bringing back their quarterback, bringing back a lot of players. I thought they had an opportunity. People were obviously talking up Texas. So the Big 12, as we mentioned, has been one of the most competitive conferences that there is. But it's also kind of confusing because I'm not sure week to week, who the best team is. And the funny thing about the Big 12 is there's no divisions. So it's just 1 versus 2. And, I think it's already set in stone, right? Kansas State, TCU, or I guess if Kansas State loses to Baylor, then there'd still be a chance. But I don't know, man. I
think they got to win at least one more. I think they need some help. They've only got a game up on Oklahoma State. And I think a game up on Texas, because Texas would have them in the tiebreaker. But Baylor, I mean, this is going to be interesting. Baylor, TCU knocks them out, Baylor's out. That means it comes down to Oklahoma State and Texas.
Yeah, and Oklahoma State has not looked good the last few weeks. In fact, I believe I know they won yesterday, correct? But a couple of weeks before that, they played Iowa State. They lost to Kansas 37-16. They lost to Kansas State 48-0. And you know, those two games to me were baffling because they had just beat Texas, 41-34. They had just lost to TCU, but it was a 3-point game. I was feeling pretty good about Oklahoma State until the Kansas State and Kansas game. So that's what I'm talking about with this conference. It's kind of all over the place, don't you think?
Yeah, agreed. 100% agreed.
So we'll break it down for you next week. And we are going to have 2 guests on next week. We've got the Go Irish. We've got one of the founders of The Spread, Coach Tony Franklin, coming on next week, and also former offensive lineman Demetrius Knox, who played for the Ohio State Buckeyes on the 2015 National Championship team. So we're going to be guest heavy next week, and we're going to be doing it same bat time, same bat channel. James, keep your chin up, and hope you feel better, brother.
Party on, Wayne.
All right, bud.
Later.